right, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. I just want to thank everyone for joining our last day of AT Week. We are so excited to have Elik here to discuss his voice banking software. Elik is the founder of the Voicekeeper. The Voicekeeper is both an easy-to-use voice banking service and a collection of diverse synthetic voices. Before founding the Voicekeeper, he created Alamagoo in 2011, which is an Israel leader in text-to-speak technology with products helping various special needs from learning disabilities to communication software, and is the official supplier of national Israel programs and for the AAC market. He holds an MBA from the Interdisciplinary Center and is an electrical engineer. If you have any questions for him, please feel free to use the chat feature on Zoom and Facebook. He will answer your questions at the end of the presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Hey, Reagan. Hey, Ray. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I will share with you my presentation about the Voicekeeper. Let's see that it works. I need to share my screen. The Voicekeeper is a text-to-speech or voice technologies company. We create mainly text-to-speech software and voices. We do some automatic speech recognition products, programs or software, but this presentation and this product is about text-to-speech. About us, we're in the business of creating personal voices since 2011 when we started in Israel in Hebrew. Since then, we've become the major supplier of text-to-speech solutions in Hebrew. We specialized in Hebrew, and we can say that we have a rather good experience working with AAC users, ALS patients. We're providing voices for the national programs that give communication computers to various patients with various needs in Israel. We also sell our text-to-speech technologies to major tier 1 players from communication companies, banks, or whoever uses text-to-speech technologies. Since our inception about 10 years ago, I think we supplied more than 3,000 customers in Israel with TTS software. And since 2019, we are working on personal voices, which I see as a natural evolution of the text-to-speech industry. And we also started to work in the United States with our English solutions and additional languages that we're working on. How we started the Voicekeeper, or why we started to create personal voice. It was 2015 that we got a request from a quite well-known ALS patient in Israel. He couldn't speak any longer, but he knew that there might be an option to preserve his voice. So he started to record his voice without speaking with us. He did that before he lost his voice. And by the time he reached us in 2015, he had a pool of recordings that he wanted to create a text-to-speech engine from. The problem is that although he was a very talented person, he wasn't professional in making recordings at home. So all of his recordings were quite useless because they had a lot of background noise and a lot of recording artifacts like hiss and very trivial stuff that if you're a professional, you don't have these problems. But when you're not professional and you're doing home recordings, you might make mistakes with bad selection of microphone or even bad selection of sentences. There were sentences, he read numbers from 1 to 10 a lot of times. That doesn't have a lot of juice to train a system on. And we tried our best. We worked months on trying to improve these recordings, but at the end of the day, it was a failure because we couldn't create a voice from these recordings. But the concept of using a person's recordings that he did while the voice was still strong in order to create a voice was still sitting in our head. And the turnaround came about 2018 or 2019 when we transitioned our technology from what you could call that unit selection. I won't go deep inside the bits and technology of how to create a voice, because I think it doesn't matter. What matters is the benefit and the end product. And the technology was that advanced in 2018, 19. It was called deep learning, deep learning neural networks. The advantage of deep learning and neural networks is that they needed, not only that they needed much less of recordings, an order of magnitude less. You didn't need, by the time that this product came, some vendors had solutions that require 1,000 sentences, 1,500, 3,000 sentences. That was a huge burden, and a lot of people, I guess that the viewers of this video are working with ALS patients. They have a lot of them on their head. Nobody will record 1,000 sentences or 3,000 sentences, and if they will do, only a small percentage of the users will do that. But deep learning can create a voice with a much lower number of sentences. So on one hand, it's easier and it's encouraging, but on the other hand, we knew that we needed to create a platform that will not allow the users to make mistakes. Recording is simple if done right, and our goal was to create a system which is very easy and very robust and very safe to use to create good recordings. This is our system. The philosophy, like I said, was something very special. In Israel, we said, probably you said it in other places, you want to design a system that is so simple that even your mother can use. And I'm proud to say that our system is very, very simple. I think my mother can use it. At the end of the day, we built an iPhone app, which is very easy. I'll show you, very easy to use. I'll show you how to use it in a second. We've also built a web-based system that you can use from your browser. You don't need to install any software. You don't need to buy any hardware. It's really, really simple and robust and without the hassle. It doesn't require a lot of effort. We saw some other systems in the voice banking area, in other areas, and analyzed everything and wanted to do something different, something which is very, very fast and easy to use, because this is what I thought would be the best. I think that our greatest advantage is the app. And when you're creating a voice, you probably noticed already that there are two things. You have technology and you have what we call the deep learning, and you have the microphone. And the device that I'm holding in my hand, an iPhone, now the background blurs it. Anyway, the iPhone, there are billions of iPhones in the world. I think everyone can agree that they have the best microphones possible. You don't need a studio to record, but nobody complains when you record something with your iPhone, right? It means that the iPhone has a great microphone. So all we did was create an app that will give you sentences on the screen. You will hold it like this. Oh, it's amazing that the background blurs it. You will hold it like this. You look at the screen, you read a sentence, and you press a button, you read a sentence, and that's it. You read 50, 100, 150 sentences, and you have a personal voice. It's really as easy as it can be. There are trivial notes. Don't do it in a noisy cafe or anything. Just find a room. You don't need to go into a closet, and you don't need to invest in soundproof room or sound absorbing carpets. It's an iPhone. We use it all day long. It really works well. I feel 100% comfortable if my mother or my relative was about to lose his voice for ALS. I feel totally comfortable with him creating a voice recorded with an iPhone. I think it's really a game changer because half of the people have iPhones. It's really the most handy microphone and process that you can use to create a voice. Some people still either don't have an iPhone or want to record from a PC or think that a USB headset is better. USB headset, if you look at our recommended devices, can indeed give you 5% better voice. I don't know what 5% means, but it's slightly better. If you have such a good microphone handy from this list, then go ahead, use it with the PC. But again, like I said before, I'm totally comfortable with my dear one recording and creating a voice that they will use for years with an iPhone. And this is our list, our very short list of recommended microphones. It includes actually only 4 microphones from Sennheiser and from LiveChat. From our experience, and we created more than 1,000 voices in the last 2 years. These voices are the best choice you can make. You can't make mistakes with these microphones. These are really great. We saw a lot of other microphones that don't give these optimal results. So for the low price of about $40 or $85, I wouldn't play with a different solution. I'll use this microphone. I specifically recommend to use an iPhone and not an iPad. And why is that? iPhone is a speaking machine. It has a microphone that it is built for speaking and recording. Well, an iPad, at least in the early years, not until last 1 or 2 years ago, it wasn't a speaking machine. So not only that, I think that its microphones are not optimized for recording, it's rather big. So people hold it naturally. They hold it on the table, and at this stage, their mouth is far away from the microphone. And notice that even in my example of how to hold the phone, hold it like this, and with a USB headset, the microphone is really an inch from your mouth. And this is the optimal way to record. This is the best way to record. You can't usually reach that with an iPad, although if you could, you will get an excellent quality of recording. So iPhone is the first solution. There are options that are okay-ish. I wouldn't recommend my loved one to create a voice with this option, but if you are creating a voice, just to play with the technology or as a sample or to demonstrate to your patient, it might be enough. You can use a modern, a high-end laptop from the last year or two, since the Zoom era. A lot of manufacturers invested in recording technologies, and new MacBooks from last year have superb microphones array and noise canceling. So you really get good results with a modern and high-end laptop. But you won't get good results if you will use a standard laptop and a laptop which is a few years old. So our most common and worst voices are from standard laptop. Don't use a standard laptop microphone. Don't use webcams. We use it now. It's okay for this conference, but it's not good to create a voice, again, because the microphone, the microphone itself is very far away from the mouth. So don't use webcams, or even our system even tries to block it. And I said my note about standard laptops, which are good for demos, but don't use them to create a voice that you want to use. How many sentences are required to record? I said it earlier, back in a few years ago, you needed a lot of sentences to create a decent quality voice. Not only that you needed a lot of sentences, due to the technology, there were a lot of constraints about how to record. You needed to make sure that the volume throughout your recordings is identical, that your way of speech throughout the recording is identical. And all these requirements that previous technology required are not so easy to fulfill by someone who is not professional and someone who doesn't have the strength or the mental power to sit down for hours and hours and hours to record thousands of sentences. Luckily, this is not the case today. With deep learning technologies, you can get very good results even with 100 sentences only, as long as they're recorded right, with a good microphone in a quiet environment. I wouldn't recommend someone to stop at 100 sentences. Because the way our system works is you record 50 sentences, which would take you 5 to 10 minutes, not more than that, and you get a sample of your voice. The system will encourage you to record additional 50 sentences, which are, again, 5 to 10 voices, 5 to 10 minutes. And this is, by the way, the time it takes the system to create the versions of your voice. So when you reach 100 sentences, you spend only 10 minutes of recording, which is, the time of a commercial break. It's really not a lot of time, and you already can hear your voice. At this stage, you're a decision point. You can spend additional 10 minutes and reach 200, or you can stick with this voice and you like it. Most people record to 200 sentences, and then they decide. If they hear a difference, they keep recording. You can reach up to 500 sentences. Of course, there is a diminishing return. The value from going from 100 to 200 is huge because you double the amount of data, but the value of going from 400 to 500 is not that big. Luckily, recording 100, 200, 300 sentences is really nothing. Most people can do it in one evening. Even people that their voice is weak, from our experience, do 100 sentences at a time. It's not a race. You can do it at your own time, and we always say, and the system will tell you also, it's better to record at your own pace without getting tired. It's not a race. You can drag it for a month. You can record 20 sentences a day, but you don't need to. It's really, really simple. 200 sentences will give you a more or less good understanding how good your voice is, and we have a lot of customers who already made the purchase with 200 sentences. I mean, it was enough for them. You build a voice using our platform. It's very easy to build a voice. You do it with from a browser, which means you can do it from a Mac as well. You can do it from the app. but at the end of the day, you will need to use this voice. Now, there is a subtle point here, because when most people create personal voices, they don't know yet about communication software or their communication needs. And it's good, and we will discuss it in a second, about this gap in timing. But the voices, the Windows version of our voices, once you make a purchase and you download the voice to your machine, it's a standard Windows voice. This means that it will work with any major communication software, such as Communicator 5 and other Grid 3 and other solutions. As long as the solution supports SAPI interface, which most modern communication software do, it will work. That's not a question. For iOS, currently there are two options. We have our own, the Voicekeeper app, the app that you use to create the voice. It's also a very simple textual-based AAC app that you can use it if you need a textual AAC app. Another option is to use PRC Saltillo. PRC Saltillo are our partners in the US currently. All their apps support the Voicekeeper voices, so you just go to the menu and select the Voicekeeper, you enter your credential, and the voice will reach your app. From our experience in Israel, at the end of the day, I guess, by the way, this is the status in the US as well. At the end of the day, ALS patients use Windows-based communication systems. I think the apps are just a station along the way, just a stop along the way. Prices. Voice creation is free, and we plan it to always be free. You can also try it yourself. It just requires a registration. Once you have a voice, the voice is saved for us for up to 5 years, although we're not 5 years in the business, but we don't have plans to delete any voices anyway. We are the Voicekeeper. We're keeping voices. So you create a voice while your voice is strong, and we will speak about it in a minute, and we keep it until you need it. When you need it, a Windows voice will cost you $200, $299. On PRC Saltillo, there is a new plan that will be announced soon, so I can't say anything about prices for PRC Saltillo. And if you want to use the Voicekeeper app, it will cost you $75. But the main working point is the Windows software. It's a $300 one-time payment. We are aware of two funding options in the US, which are the VA and Tim Gleason. Tim Gleason don't promote our solution. I hope that it's just temporary, but anyway, they pay for any communication or general needs of ALS patients, and they've already funded our software for some of our patients. I guess that there might be additional funding options in the US. If you're a professional healthcare, you can create a voice and use it not only for a demo, you can use it for a year or for 2 years. You can go to our website and you can see at the upper right corner for professionals. You just need to shoot us an email with any email or other proof of you being a professional in this field, and we will make your account pro. It means you can use the voice you create on any platform for a year, although we will extend it, and on our app. If I had to give the most important tip I can give to people that need to create a voice or working with patients with ALS, and this tip is also shared by any professional worldwide, is to start banking your voice early. Because the problem is that after your voice is beginning to slur or be slowed or damaged, you can't create a good quality speech anymore. You can only preserve the state of the speech the time of you record. And the sad thing is that when you or your family notice that your speech or a patient's speech is damaged, it's really damaged at this stage. You can understand why. It makes sense. So in an ideal world, a patient who is diagnosed should bank his voice as soon as possible while his speech is strong. You know, it's like insurance. It costs nothing. I even recommend to user, you can do it with few vendors, because different vendors will give different quality. So just do it early, because the time lost can't be returned. So just do it early. We see a lot of patients that don't record early, but record in a rather later phase, that their speech is already slurred or weak. And for those, what we did is, we show a list of sentences on the screen. we have an option to order them according to length. So the first sentences that you will record will be short, and it's a great value for people with with already problems speaking for a long period of time, because it's better to record a short sentence right, without hesitations or without pauses for air, than recording a long sentence and pause at the wrong places. So the short sentences are of great value. Of course, you will need a bit more of sentences. I think that the minimum won't be 100, but it will be 200 sentences. But anyway, 200 sentences are nothing. Even if you have, from our experience, if people have difficulty reading, nobody have a problem reaching 200 sentences. It doesn't take a night. It takes a few days, but it's really, really simple. Another option that we have implemented lately or recently is people can bring their own texts. It means that you don't have to read aloud the sentences that we give you. You can bring your own texts, maybe personal messages that you speak to your family, the basics, honey, I love you, or anything that is specific to you. You can just type these words, read them aloud, and later when you say these phrases, the system will say them in your voice. Another important feature is the conversion from message banking to voice banking. Message banking is a technology or a method to preserve sentences or messages that you frequently used. And I know that a lot of people in the United States have spent a lot of effort in creating extraordinary and excellent and of highest quality message banking pools. High quality means high quality recording, sentences read right, amazing work. The technology of the Voicekeeper can just take this pool of recording, a zip file with all these recordings, and use them to create a synthetic engine. I convert message banking to voice banking. It's really simple. You just, as you can see here, you just need to upload a file with the message banking recording, and everything is done automatically. I know that people are using this feature not only for message banking to voice banking conversion, but they also, sometimes when people don't have message banking sets, they try to pull audio from YouTube videos or old recordings. And this doesn't work that well, because if you remember what we said earlier about homemade recordings, not all recordings that we upload to YouTube are of the finest quality. Some of them are from a remote microphone or recorded with a lot of echo. So in the last few years that we're working on it, we had a lot of frustration of people trying to use recordings that weren't meant or are not suitable in order to create a voice. It's simply not high quality enough. You will notice when you work with the system that at the end of the day, with just a $50 microphone or a free iPhone app, you reach studio quality recordings. You reach very good recordings. This is the level that is suitable to create a voice. So I limit this feature usage for only a really good message banking set. It can be converted to a voice banking set. There is an option of voice donation, and we haven't spoke at all about the need for voice banking at all, and it's my bad. I ran to the technology, but there is a very personal voices are extremely emotional. A person that is about to lose his ability to speak, I don't think that people should speak with a voice which is not their own. If you never had a voice, then you don't have a choice. But if you have a voice and you're about to lose it to this horrible disease, and then to replace it with something generic that sounds very good, like Alexa or Siri, it sounds awesome, but it is not only that it's not you, it's like a lot of other people. So it's really losing a huge part of your identity. And if you create your voice early, I'm the last person to say that a synthetic speech can replace someone's real natural speech, but it will still preserve something. And this something is very strong. Anyone that will hear this synthetic voice will identify you. So it still preserves something of your identity. So back to voice donation. If you don't have a voice anymore, or you can't record, and you don't have any message banking set that you recorded beforehand, you can ask for a donation from someone. This can be a family member, a friend. I usually give the example of Stephen Hawking, although it was, I think, probably 20 or 30 years ago. He used the speech synthesizer that his friend It's a well-known urban legend, but it's correct. His friend was an electrical engineer. I think his name was Klat. Created a voice for him. Klat also recorded and created the system. And many years after that, when the technology advanced, people suggested Stephen Hawking to replace his voice, and he simply said, "It's my voice. It was a gift. It was a gift from my friend, and I'm not replacing it." So voice donation, in some cases, might be a huge gift or with a very, very strong touch. The system will allow you, to make the connection with your donor. It's really easy. I won't get into any of the details now because the system will guide you how to do it. I'm just saying that this option is available. We've built our system to be completely self-service. I'm always speaking about my mom, and I think that my mom can create a voice using this system. But in reality, not all our users are tech savvy and have good access to computers or apps, and some of them need assistance. So today we have the option of remotely helping a patient, whether it's by a phone call or by a Zoom session, or even connecting remotely, or even not connecting remotely, but seeing behind the scenes what he's doing and helping him. So in case if you or a patient of yours needs help, just use the contact us option on our webpage, thevoicekeeper.com, and we will coordinate the time to help you. Last, we received very, very good and encouraging feedback from users. Our team here is really proud that we've made a simple and robust system that creates great voices and helps people. I am not aware of a competition between different vendors to see which one is better. I don't think there is such competition. Being in electrical engineering and knowing how this technology works, I know the different vendors for same recordings will produce various levels of quality. And if I had to recommend to someone in my family in the US, if he had to create a personal voice, I would recommend him to try different vendors because of the insights of this black box, the deep learning. Different vendors or different companies do things differently, and some voices simply sound differently, so it's worth a try. Still, people love our system, and we are very proud of it, and it helps a lot of people. Demonstration. Let's see if it will work. I will show you how to register, and I'll show you the first screens of the system. We go to actually start here, the Voicekeeper. People will usually start here in our marketing page, and will use the login button to log into the system. We won't register, we won't log in, we will sign up first because I want to show you how simple it is. And we need a name just so we know how to contact you. We need an email. Let's call it you need to create a password. You need to confirm our terms of service and privacy policy. In general, of course, if you're interested, you can read the details, but the voices is yours, and we don't share with them, and we don't distribute them, and we don't share them. Your voices are kept only for you. We don't even use them to train the system or anything else. You can also do even the registration via one of the social buttons. We ask you a few questions. We need to know your gender because it affects the way we create voices. We need to know your country because it will slightly affect the accents that your voice will sound. In this case, I'll select United States. As for the state region, it's not that important. Your age is somewhat important because we have different processes for childs and for other groups. In this case, I'll select adult. I already approved terms of service. That's it, I'm done. In another process, I'll have to approve the email, but it's not urgent right now. The system helps me by reminding me that I need to be in a quiet room, I need to use a headset, and I can use keyboard shortcuts for recording. I see I need to allow the use of my microphone. select my microphone, notice that I'm using a webcam. I have a feeling that it will block me at this stage. Yes, I can't use a webcam. Let me connect a USB headset.
I think you will hear me much better right now. Okay. Do you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Let's see if I can record these sentences while sharing the screen. I see the sentence on screen. A pet is a domesticated animal that lives with people. It is not forced to work and it is not eaten. Well, that's basically it. You do 1, 2, you record. I didn't even use the mouth. I just read the sentences loud, read them out loud. That's basically it. And once I reach 50 sentences, I'll disconnect this headset.
Once I reach 50 sentences, it will create a voice for me. There are message banking options. I can bring my own audio, which you saw in the presentation. You can edit your own texts, bring your own texts. You can select short sentences. It will give you a note about the pros and cons of doing it, so I won't do it now. You have options about voice donation. Voice donation is tricky because there are a lot of combinations. If you are recording for someone else, if someone else is recording for you, so the system actually asks you, what do you want to do? You can ask a few people to record for you. You can even connect different accounts, but I really think it's an advanced option. And from my experience, users usually contact us at this stage. That's basically it about using the system. Now the system reminds us that our previous microphone is not connected. Like I told you, I've built a system that does everything possible in order to make sure that you use that you have proper recordings at the end. I think that this is all that I wanted to show you.
In most cases, a pet is kept to entertain people or for companionship.
It reads it aloud because I hovered above this.
In most cases, a pet is kept to entertain people or for companionship.
It's not that I don't think it's needed. I think people don't need this example, but it's just an example to show you how to read a sentence. Back to the presentation. I'm actually done, and I'm open to questions if there are such.
All right, thank you so much. So if anybody has any questions, please use the chat feature on Facebook, or you can use the chat feature Q&A on Zoom. But while we wait for questions, I do have one for you. So the iOS app looks really easy to use and it looked great. We do have some Android users. Have you guys looked into making an Android app, or are you just sticking with iOS?
No, we invested some time in exploring options on recording with Android and decided that it is not the best or optimal option for us to support all the different Android models in the market. So our options is either iOS or a PC with a USB headset.
Yeah, that's great. The iOS app looks really easy to use. I'm happy that you're using iOS. So we do have a lot of Apple users.
It's really easy to use. The voices that we create can be used on Android devices as well, but from our experience also, the number of Android AAC users is much smaller. You know, this market is dominated by iOS and Windows.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I am looking to see if anybody has any questions. I don't see any on Facebook just yet. I don't see any in the chat feature. If any questions come up though, I will go ahead and forward those to you via email, and I'll have you answer those for me.
With pleasure.
But thank you so much. It was such a great presentation and demonstration. I learned a lot, so I really appreciate you being here today as the final presentation for AT Week. We are really grateful to have you, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.